101 years later, two historic incidents took place. On April 8 in New York, the first international Major League game in history was held. And on 30,000 Montreal fans jammed into Jarry Park to see the first official Major League game ever played in Canada. Even in his wildest dreams, Alexander Cartwright could never have predicted the Montreal Expos. Rookie Dave Hartman knows it isn't easy to be big league, and he's right.
One afternoon I was at my apartment and I got a letter in the mail and it was marked Montreal, and I had no idea of anything like that, and my wife and I opened it up and it said that I had been drafted 8th by the Montreal Expos, and I read it once, and I read it twice, and I read it again, and then my wife read it. And I think that night my wife and I went out and celebrated. We must have had a hamburger or something, because that was something big for me, you know, and I couldn't. She says, well, what does it feel like? And I says, honey, I just don't know, because this is something new for me too, and all winter I thought about it, and naturally one day I'm dreaming about throwing in a big game, and the next day I figure, well, I probably won't make it, and up and down I win.
The monumental job of building a major league team was exhausting and exasperating. At times it looked as though there was no hope at all, that it was all a crazy, impossible dream. But it wasn't.
Je fais des vœux de succès à l'équipe. Je sais que tous nos concitoyens ont un esprit sportif assez grand pour savoir que ce qui compte pour le moment, c'est de savoir, d'avoir cette satisfaction, de savoir que tous les plus grands joueurs de baseball au monde viendront jouer à Montréal.
The impossible dream came true, personified in a proud symbol that would soon be familiar from coast to coast in two great countries.
I believe that the expansion into Canada by the National League was very much prompted by the exciting aspect of taking baseball, Major League Baseball, out of the United States for the first time and bringing in a new element.
Along with the valuable National League franchise came an even more valuable property for the Expos, President John McHale.
It has a new dimension in sports. It has international flavor. It's bringing a game that the Americans for so many years have held very close to themselves, something that's almost a religion in some areas, and bringing it to a new area, a great country.
But there were still miracles to be performed. A big league club needs a big league stadium, and that's what Montreal had promised the National League. After long searching, the Expos contracted for the operation of Jarry Park in Montreal's North End. And the critical question on everybody's lips was, how could a 3,000-seat minor league park be turned into a major league stadium in just a few months? It was a job that should normally take 2 years.
I'm very glad to work on that job to prepare a good stadium for the baseball in Montreal, because it's very important for us to get a good team over here, and it should be a good business for the whole people of Montreal.
I've been here since we started the stadium, of course, and we've suffered very much of winter, especially this winter here. And I think I will never forget about Expos coming in Montreal.
When the first game is come, I'm going to come back here. I'm going to see that.
Night and day, the city and the club labored to do the impossible and to put into operation what has been called the most fantastic sports enterprise in Canadian history. One man who could hardly believe it was Gene Kirby.
I've seen many great moments in baseball during a career that has extended over 25 years. I've seen some of the greatest names in baseball perform. Joe DiMaggio. I even go back to the days of my youth when Babe Ruth and Tris Speaker and Ty Cobb were at the end of their career, and it was a great thrill to see them. But since the start of baseball in Montreal this past year, I don't think anything has given me a greater thrill than to see a team start as this has up in Montreal, and the enthusiasm that has been displayed by the people in Montreal toward this new baseball enterprise or franchise is just about the most outstanding thing that I have ever seen.
Coming home to Montreal for their very first time, the Expos were surprised by a reception at the airport from 5,000 people. But Montreal wasn't surprised. Everyone felt the same as René Lecavalier, popular Canadian sportscaster.
Most of us baseball fans in Montreal had always hoped that eventually Major League Baseball would come to Montreal, but I frankly never thought it would happen in my generation. You see, as a youngster, I remember my family would go to the country for the weekends, and I would always stay behind in order not to miss a baseball game of the Montreal Royals. I'm sure baseball will achieve tremendous success in Montreal because there's great enthusiasm. And to use an expression of John McHale, when I asked him yesterday what he would like to accomplish in his first year in Montreal, he said,
what we would like to see the fans do, and at least we'd like to see the fans feel, that this is their team. We'd like to see them live and enjoy their success. We'd like to see them be disappointed with them, but be patient that this is a new team, a new organization, and that they will have great fun and watching this organization grow.
Does Montreal love the Expos? How's this for a welcome home parade? In the middle of a normal working day, too.
I think it's going to be like a new marriage, where both parties have to get to know each other and learn to live with each other's flaws and character. In Canada, all the boys play baseball, at least some, but we don't really know much about Major League Baseball. We don't know much about the finesse of the game, the finer points. And manager Gene Mauch is going to have to be very patient with the members of press, radio, and television, fellows like me, who go to the dressing room after the game and ask what probably will be a lot of stupid questions. The same thing is true for the fans. We know about 3 strikes and 3 outs per inning, but do the fans really know about Major League Baseball? Do they know how hard some of these young fellas are going to be trying and how nervous the younger fellas on the team are going to be, especially trying so hard in a new expansion city? It's going to take a lot of learning to live together, but it's going to be great.
The players are the great artists. They are the people who produce the thrills, and the fans are those who demand these sort of thrills and this sort of interest. Without them, we can't exist, and they're just a wonderful fandom here in Montreal and Canada. There's an emotion about the way they accept things and take things, and they seem to be so appreciative of effort. And I think that our team, if they just give them a good try, an effort, an all-out effort to be a good ball club, and I think they're going to enjoy playing here tremendously.
I think that the people of Montreal and Canada
are going to be with us like the people in Green Bay are with the Packers. I think it's going to be that type of association. And this will be great because we will be part of you and you will be part of us, which is fantastic.
I think some of the most enthusiastic fans I've ever seen in my life live in the city of Montreal. I remember 25 years ago when I played up there, it was commonplace on a Sunday to have 15, 18, 20,000 people in the stands for minor league baseball. If we were playing Toronto or Syracuse or Buffalo or some cities like that, and it was commonplace. The people were very avid, very rabid, enjoyed the game very much, and they let you know how they felt about you.
Montreal was known as one of the best minor league baseball town by the past, and I'm sure today, with people like John McKay, Jim Fanning, and Gene Mock as head of our ball club, the Expo will succeed, and the Canadians across the country will encourage that good sport is baseball.
At last, the great day arrived. The stadium was ready. The people were ready. And even though word had it that Montreal and Jarry Park would still be under snow on opening day, nobody in Montreal believed it. They knew, despite what anybody else said, that they had a stadium, a team, and a dream.
The fans of Montreal will definitely have an effect on the ball club. I'm sure that everybody on the club, when we get there in Montreal, there's going to be a tremendous amount of excitement about the team, and the whole idea of a ball club is to have this excitement, you know, so you can naturally draw the fans into the stands. I think if the people of Montreal can, you know, just envision what could take place with a team there, if it is successful, and they can realize the capabilities of what should take place with an expansion ball club in our case, they will not be disappointed in the caliber of play, because I think they're going to get real good baseball. And this is what the city wanted. They wanted good baseball, and they're going to get it.
Now there were no more doubts. Everybody knew that big league baseball was in Montreal to stay. The Expos were playing ball, and the overflow crowd would never forget it as their team brought them to their feet in excitement.
When we play in Montreal, we just hope that the people are going to be pulling for us as much as we're pulling for ourselves, and I believe this is going to be true.
Everything chips in to help a little bit. Good spirit from the fans, good spirit on the field from the ball players. Winning a few games, of course, helps. Of course, good coaching helps, and we've got it here. We've got the best that there is in baseball right here in Montreal.
Or a left-handed outfielder going to his left like this and have to turn like this to throw. Heck, that's good for 2 steps. That's good for 2 steps.
Yeah, that's him. I do it twice in one game.
But men like manager Gene Mock are realistic about the job of building a real contender.
Starting a ball club from scratch is really probably the most exciting thing that I've ever been associated with. There are some benefits to it. There are some disadvantages also, but I think the benefits outweigh any disadvantages you have, because so many times when you start a new ball club, you can create the style of play, the team policy that you want. You don't have to undo anything. Like when you come into an established club that has been lethargic and apathetic in their play, then you have to undo some of their bad habits. We'll be starting right from scratch and do things the same way year after year, and I think that the players will like the Expo style of play.
160 games still lay ahead of them, but none meant as much to the Expos as this one. The opening day game in their own ballpark against 1968's National League champions, the St. Louis Cardinals. And that day, the most loyal fans in the league were born as the Expos won the first Major League contest ever held on Canadian soil. The score, 8-7.
Aside from the excitement, the tremendous excitement, the enthusiasm, we have a baseball player. The greatest of opportunities will be afforded to players made available by expansion who have been running second fiddle, you may say, to the Ron Santos, to the Dow Maxvilles, to the star players in the National League. The opportunities that they've never had before, these young players.
Day out, the first guy who even talked to me was Bob Bailey. And I read about him in I think I collected his baseball card. That's it. And now I'm sitting right next to him, and I don't know, should I say, I collected your baseball cards, because that doesn't sound the right thing, and yet I don't know what to talk about. Do I talk about family, or do I talk about shop, you know? Are you supposed to sit in the clubhouse and talk baseball all the time? I don't know, and people come up and introduce, you know, and I recognize the name, and I says, God, and then I walk in my locker, maybe 5 lockers away from Maury Wills, and last summer I was seeing Maury Wills on TV, and
every young ball player wants to play in the major leagues, and the expansion club has been a great thing. It's helped a lot of ball players get to the major leagues, whereas maybe before they wouldn't have been able to.
Jim Williams, speaking for every ball player who has ever been invited to a big league training camp.
I'm looking forward to this year with the Montreal Expos. I think we're going to have a real fine ball club. I think when fellows like Wills and Rusty Staub and some of the fellows that have played for a few years in the major leagues are out there, that it helps the younger ball players perform a little bit better than maybe they would at a minor league level.
Like every other branch of the entertainment business, baseball depends upon its stars to attract fans. And one of the outstanding young players bagged by the Expos is Rusty Staub, Le Grand Orange.
I don't care who you are in a game-type situation. I think there is a definite anxiety or nervousness that you can either let work for you or against you. And I think one of the things that I have tried to teach my own self in my own hitting is that if you concentrate so much on fundamentals that you can regulate your mind to that fact, no matter what kind of situation it is in any game, that you can go up to the plate and still think the same things that you would normally think, even if it was, you know, you were ahead by 10 runs and a guy was on third base, you know.
Staub began the season auspiciously, hitting Montreal's first home run before a stunned and silent New York crowd. But one homer does not a season make, and Le Grand Orange is veteran enough to understand.
You have to look at it two ways. Realistically, you got to say we're going to finish last in our division. If anybody looks at it any other way, they're just kidding somebody. But everything doesn't always happen realistically. You can't go by paper. We're liable to surprise the entire National League.
One way or another, this colorful Canadian team was to be full of surprises, beginning with their 11-10 victory in their very first game. Even the people who had hoped the most could hardly believe what they had seen.
I'm trying to make the team. I'm trying to make it as a starting pitcher, as a matter of fact, and I just think that I'm going to have a very good opportunity, much better opportunity than I would have had, let's say, had I been with the Cubs this spring.
And other people could hardly believe it when Montreal came up with the season's first no-hit, no-run game from Bill Stoneman, whose Expo cap and autographed ball now rest in the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York.
There's something, particularly with the Expo Ball Club, there's something extra special here. We have better spirit than I've ever seen on a ball club.
Everybody wants to hit 1,000. Everybody wants to feel 1,000. Everybody wants to win every game. But this is impossible, and that's why I think baseball is such a great game, because the competitive spirit has to be inside of you. You have 162 games to play. It's tough to get up for every game, but you have to feel it. The competitiveness from within is very important, and it has to come out in you as much as possible in order for you to have a winning season.
Expansion team, yes. But grim Gene Mauch is determined that they will not be bush leaguers. Mauch has been around long enough to know that if you want to mix with the bigs, you've got to play like the bigs, even if you finish last.
Baseball is so much a game of conditioning. It's unique in that we play 162 games a year, where most of the other major sports play perhaps half of that or even less. The football players play 12 or 15 games a year, and they have to be conditioned physically to contact both with the opposition and with the ground. We try to avoid contact in practice with one another and even with the ground. We don't even do much sliding practice because the majority of players that come to the Major League camp already know about sliding, and they've been taught this as youngsters, and once you learn, it's like riding a bicycle. Once you learn how to slide, you never forget how to do it. Our ball players, like all Major League ball players, just repeat and repeat over and over all the things that they have to do in baseball, so it becomes second nature to them.
Sometimes you lay awake at night and you wonder if you're really going to make it or not. You look at all the Major League ball players and you see the 20-game winners, and you see all the ball players that's hitting 300, and you wonder as a pitcher if you can get out Mickey Mantle, if you can get out Willie Mays. These are some of the things that goes through a young ball player's mind.
I was scared that first day. I tell you, guys up there that were hitting Major League ball, and here I was, and I didn't know if I could throw as hard as I could and still get them out. You know, I have nothing to compare myself, and then word gets out that we're having an inter-squad game, and I'm done for now. I'm just turning me over, and I said, well, I hope I don't throw that first day so I can see what somebody else throws like, you know, and because right now I'm trying to compare myself and see where I stand, and well, luckily I wasn't slated to throw on that first night, so this was on a Sunday, I guess. So Saturday night I figured, well, I'll watch all day tomorrow and pick up a few pointers, and sure enough, after the game Sunday, they said there's another game tomorrow, and those guys who aren't throwing, throw tomorrow, and that was me. So last night I thought about my pitching, and I concentrated, and I want to remember the signs, and I got plenty of rest, and I didn't do anything that really set me up. And this morning I woke up and it's raining, and now I'm right back to where I started, because now I got to go through the whole thing again tomorrow.
There will be many days like that. Sometimes the ball players can't be blamed if they wonder whether anybody upstairs really cares.
We'd like to wish the city of Montreal and the Expos good luck and more chance.
So that's how it went in year one for the Montreal Expos, in this, the 100th anniversary of professional baseball. Those were the hopes, the fears, the joys, the agonies, the successes, the failures, and all the other consequences and responsibilities of big league competition. But whatever their fortunes may be in the National League, one fact remains certain. Canada has a Major League Baseball team, the Montreal Expos.
Montreal Expos.
We're going to come up there and we're going to give you the best that we have. If sometimes we might disappoint you, it's not because we're thinking about offending you. It's just that we want to do well so bad, is that I guess we are going to make mistakes. I guess we'll do that too. But you stick with us, and I think we're going to be okay.
tradition.